Hi everybody, it's Angel Shaver, Stampin Up a Demonstrator from Kansas. And I know I am not usually here on a Sunday afternoon, but today is a special deal. It's a Super Bowl. It doesn't feel like my normal Sunday afternoon. I am wearing a shirt of my favorite football team. I know they are not playing in the Super Bowl tonight. And because I'm from Kansas and most of the rest of my family is rooting for the Chiefs, I am also rooting for the Chiefs. But I have no other NFL team apparel in this house, only Seattle Seahawks. So anytime you see me in team apparel, you are going to see the Seattle Seahawks. I have a Super Bowl special for you guys today. If you are watching the game or you not watching the game but you have an opinion about the outcome of the game, comment, send me an email, something by halftime with who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. And all those who happen to be correct will be entered for a door prize from me. It has nothing to do with football, nothing to do with the Chiefs or the 49ers, but you'll get something. And also, if you're not into the Super Bowl, you don't want to wager even a guess on who's going to win, you would rather be crafting, send me a picture of something you have created recently, maybe even today during the Super Bowl. But today, in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you something I've been working on. I've had lots of people ask me the best way to handle the detailed line stamps. And so we're just going to play. I've been playing and I'm going to show you some of what I've been creating, and we're going to do a few things together if you love those detailed line stamps. So let me point you down at the table and I'll start showing you some cards and we'll start creating together. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is just show you I have my favorite thing to do with the detail line stamps is to heat emboss them. And so I have some heat embossed with silver embossing powder, and we are just going to be doing some crazy things with them. First thing we're going to do, I'm going to actually show you. I am not a accomplished, talented marker artist, but you can find those other places. But I'm going to show you first. This is the card I made with the Stampin' Up markers, and my rose is colored with, I'm trying to figure out the best place to hold this for you, colored with Mary Merlot marker and old olive leaves with some mossy meadow outline. And then there's a little bit of crumb cake on my pine cones. And then this is the one I did with the blends. And it's hardly a fair comparison because I didn't have any of the darker color blends, but I did use some pinks for the roses, and I believe that's Old Olive on the leaves and the bronze for the pine cone. What I noticed with the blends is that it pulled some of the silver embossing powder and blended it into my colored areas as well. Okay, those are the markers. We are not going to be doing the markers today, but we are going to do the watercolor pencils. And I have laid out some colors. I have Old Olive, Cherry Cobbler, and Early Espresso, and then my blender pen. And I can tell you cannot even see these. So I'm going to show you. You think you're not an artist. You think you cannot color in a detailed line image. I'm going to show you a way to stamp this to make this a gorgeous card without any coloring later. But I'm going to show you how easy this is. Here's my Early Espresso, and I'm just scribbling in the areas that I would like to have some color, and going back with my blender pen and pulling the color into everywhere I would like it to be. Excuse me. Getting choked up. And if you don't have quite enough color, just add a little more. And take your blender pen over there and pull it. I know you all want to see what happens to the flower. I'll recommend putting just a little bit color at least in each of the petals, so you have some color to pull, because the ink can be emboss resist, which means it doesn't all go over the embossed lines as well. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing so far. And by the magic of television, it would help if I remembered where I put those. Okay, by the magic of television, I have what I finished, but I didn't know where I laid it. Here it is, the finished card with the watercolor pencils and the blender pen. And next, okay. Next, I'm going to pull out just the blender pen along with my ink. And so I have Old Olive, Early Espresso, and Mary Merlot. And if you take it and you push it in the center, when you open it, you've made a palette of ink that you can use for blender pen, for your aqua painter, for some watercoloring. I have Old Olive, Early Espresso, and Mary Merlot. And every time I'm getting ready to switch a blender pen, I just wipe it clean on my paper. And I just grab some ink and then make some circles. Continue to grab some ink, make some circles, drag it out into the larger petals, because I do want to leave the darker part in the center. And there is the paper that I've been working on. And then this is using cherry cobbler, so it's a bit different. But there is the finished rose. Okay, next thing I'm going to do is show you what Stampin' Up! Has provided for us to make adding color to this. Some of these line images really more about stamping than anything else. So, same thing. I have my 3 colors: Early Espresso, Old Olive, and Mary Merlot. And in the Christmas Rose set, there is the detail line stamp. And then there are a lot of photopolymer images that match different parts of the stamp. And the first thing we're going to do is add some Mary Merlot color to the rose. Try to line that up. That was not great, but it might end up being okay. That's not perfect, but here's what happens. When you have that kind of moment, grab your blender pen and drag some of the ink along the edges of your stamped image. All right. I just want to show you a couple of the leaf stamps that came with this set. It's pretty amazing. Clean off the rose and put it away. my roses in two pieces because I cut it apart at one point. Alright, we'll do a couple of the leaf stamps. Move some of my ink over. The way these stamps are made is there are only 3 different leaf stamps. And so you find the area where it goes, match it up, and a stamp. And again, if you didn't quite get it, you can grab some of the ink with your blender pen and fill in those edges. Also, the stamp apparatus is something I should have been using to show this, because this is a perfect example of what the stamp apparatus can help with. Here is another of the leaf stamps that goes with this. And again, you ink it up. And then look for the matching set of leaves on your card. I think it is over here. And line it up and set it down. There are also stamps that match the pine cone. There's a pine cone stamp and stamps that match the little sprigs, the berry sprigs. But here is my finished product. And again, this was using the cherry cobbler ink, and this was using the Mary Merlot. And the last one I'm going to show you before we do some heat embossing with no coloring is we're going to watercolor. Now, I am not an expert watercolorer. That is something I would like to get better at. Maybe work on spend some time working on that. It is quite relaxing, and I'm always very impressed with my finished, with people's finished product, not necessarily mine. Here is the new Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Now, this was an interesting experiment. It did not hold the heat embossing like I had hoped. I'm trying to find my piece of heat embossed watercolor paper, and I'm not seeing it right now. Maybe if I find that somewhere else. I did do some heat embossing and some, there it is, watercoloring on a piece of watercolor paper earlier, and it did heat emboss quite well. But when I tried to heat emboss on the Fluid 100 paper, it did not do what I expected it to. There are some occasional shimmers of silver in there, but it did heat set the embossing powder so that it is a darker color and it stayed. It's not just the clear Versamark. So the first thing I'm going to do is just take my aqua painter, drop some water on there, and then get the paper wet. And then I'm going to pick up some of the ink off my palette and just add some color. You don't even have to add that much ink because the water just spreads it out. And then in between colors, just take your aqua painter and paint on your grid paper or whatever paper you have on your work surface to help get rid of any extra colors so you can use a different one. And again, we're using Mary Merlot. And that's what we're starting in the center. And it just, the water will just pick up the color and take it wherever there is more water. All right, I'm going to close up my ink pads so I don't have a mess. And here is the watercolored image on the Fluid 100 paper. I'm going to set that aside, and we are going to show how to make a gorgeous card with a detailed lined image stamp with no coloring. And again, heat embossing is my absolute favorite thing to do with these detailed line image stamps. So what I'm going to do is we're going to emboss on a piece of basic black. And that's the embossing buddy that is going to prevent there from being a lot of static to help extra embossing powder not stick to it. And then I'm putting Versamark on my stamp. And stamping. And this is how I do my heat embossing. I take my paper and my powder, and I have a little container that I can just pour the powder all over it. And then I always thump the back to get any extra powder off. And I do keep a small paintbrush around just on the off chance that I need to brush off some of the embossing powder. I'm moving all this stuff over here because I'm about to use the heat gun. Watch the magic happen. Alright, I don't know how well you could see that, but it did emboss the entire image. And this is a focal point that stands on its own, and it doesn't need any extra coloring. I'm going to show you again everything that I've done. And I would love to hear from you. What is your favorite technique for using the detail-lined images? Here's with the silver that we just did, and here is the same image embossed in the gold and finished up on a card. So here's the embossed silver and the embossed gold. Now, I'm going to show you each of them, and I want so you can see them and make it an opinion. Leave me a vote, please. Here is just embossed on a darker background. This is the stamped photopolymer stamps added to the lined background. And I'll find those, or that other one from today. Sorry about that. I don't usually film on Sundays, so there's no way for people to know not to bother me. Here is the stamped image. Here is the blender pen. And the watercolor pencils. The watercoloring on the watercolor paper. And finally, the markers, the blends, and these Stampin' Up markers. Okay, and I have a couple other cards, if I can figure out what these were. I think this one was with the blends. And this is one that was just stamped in white ink on black paper. I don't know how well you can see that. But I would love to hear which one of those is your very favorite way to add some color or personality to your lined image. And don't forget, there is a Super Bowl special happening today. If you let me know before the end of halftime of the game which team you think will win and they're a winner, your name will be entered in a drawing for a door prize. If you have no interest in football, you don't even know who's playing, you don't want to guess, that's okay too. You can enter by just showing me a picture of something you've been working on. Even if it's today during the game, I would love to see a picture of what you are creating. Hi, Melinda. Now you have to pick one. You said you liked them all, but you have to pick one. And no, you don't have to wash the blender pen. I just do the same thing with it that I did with the aqua painter, and I just color with it on my graph paper or my white scrap paper until no more ink comes out of it. And then you can use it for a different color. Alright, I can't... Okay. I'm glad you like the blender pen. If I have to pick a favorite, I like them all too, but I have to pick a favorite, so I'm going to pick just the embossed on the black paper. I think that is really dramatic, and I love to do that. Well, I will see you all hopefully. This Thursday, my son has a shuntogram appointment. But either I will get a video done before and you will not be watching me live, but there will be a video, or it'll just be another random sometime after that. So we will see what happens. And it will be a sneak peek of the online class that will be free if you order $50 or more in the with my February host code, or it's $15 for the tutorials, video, and PDF if you don't want to place an order. Let me see. I have to come up here. My eyes are terrible. Yeah, those metallic embossed ones on the dark paper make such a statement. That's what I think anyway. So, alright, I will see you all later, and we are going to be playing with music set this month. That is my featured online class. I will see you later.